Bangkok lights up, the music starts, the stage lights up, and the so-called Ladyboys step out to the cheers of tourists. For many, it is an image that symbolizes Thailand's openness, freedom, and uniqueness. But behind the perfect makeup and the showmanship lies a social system of structures, rules, and prejudices that quietly separate the acceptable from the real. Not everyone sees the other side of the lights. And this is the time to look at the big picture, where culture, law, economics, and people intersect to shape a complex and unique reality. Number 1. The Forgotten History of Kathoey. The Thai word Kathoey has had many layers of meaning. Originally referring to intersex people, it has expanded to describe transgender women or men who present as feminine. With its Thai Khmer origins, the concept is not simply a product of modernity, but has been present in Thai cultural life for centuries. During the Ayutthaya period, Kathoey were not completely eliminated from public life. On the contrary, they performed ceremonial roles, performed artistic performances, and served in royal religious activities. In some communities, they were also seen as supernatural intermediaries, connecting the material and spiritual realms. Although little is known about them in official historical documents, traces of them are recorded in folklore legends and communal memories. In traditional Thai society, gender was not strictly binary. Gender expression was understood more flexibly. This allowed the Kathoey phenomenon to survive for centuries without being completely eliminated, as in some other cultures. As Thailand began to industrialize and integrate into the global community at the turn of the 20th century, there was a major shift in how gender was viewed. Kathoey gradually moved from ceremonial spaces to the realm of popular entertainment and art. The 1950s-1970s saw the rapid development of theater, film, and television, where many Kathoey found space to express themselves. By the 1990s, the rise of the tourism and entertainment industries helped spread the Ladyboy image around the world. Cabaret shows and transgender beauty pageants were held publicly, attracting large audiences at home and abroad. Kathoey was not only a domestic social phenomenon, but also became a symbol of Thai cultural identity on the international stage. However, this process of commercialization has also distorted the original cultural role of Kathoey. They are gradually referred to in terms of entertainment, sometimes even simplified as a tourism product. Their multi-layered history is rarely mentioned. Cultural identity is encapsulated in performance forms obscuring social depth and individual identity. Ladyboys cannot be understood solely in the present. They are a part of Thai history, not a modern mutation. Looking back is not only a reminder, but also a key to understanding why they are both celebrated on stage and restricted outside of legal life today. Tracing the history of Kathoeys helps illuminate how Thai society has constructed, accepted, and redefined gender over time. Number 2. Religion and society. The Kathoey community is often seen as a familiar part of urban Thai life. Trans women working in beauty salons, performing in entertainment venues, and appearing on television are no longer uncommon. However, this level of acceptance is largely superficial and in permissive spaces. When one digs deeper into the social and religious structures, one can see subtle but clear stratification. Theravada Buddhism. Thailand's dominant religion has a profound influence on how people view gender and identity. The teachings do not directly oppose transgender people, but the philosophy of Kathoey contributes to a kind of conditional tolerance. Many Thais believe that being born Kathoey is the result of actions in a previous life. This interpretation is not meant to condemn, but it also does not put them on the same level as those who do not have karma. As a result, sympathy is often accompanied by pity, a form of acceptance that falls short of equal rights. In large cities like Bangkok or Chiang Mai, with diverse work environments and active LGBTQ+ communities, trans people have more space to exist and express themselves. But in rural areas, or the Muslim-dominated South, social conservatism forces many Kathoey to keep their true identities hidden. Geographical separation also creates stark gaps in access to opportunities and public services. Even within families, acceptance is uneven. Mothers are often more sympathetic, while fathers tied to traditions and family responsibilities often find it difficult to accept a son who rejects the male role. Many Kathoey leave home at a young age, severing blood ties in order to live out their true gender identity. The tension between personal beliefs and societal expectations creates a series of silent tragedies that are not always reflected in the media. In addition, there is a kind of controlled acceptance in Thai society. Kathoeys are viewed positively when they appear in entertainment beauty or in areas of cultural significance. But when they enter more serious positions, such as education, public service, and politics, that acceptance is immediately limited. There are cases of transgender teachers being forced to wear male uniforms despite having undergone surgery. The situation of being prevented from expressing themselves still occurs in the administrative and educational systems. The simultaneous existence of two extremes, open in public spaces and conservative in legal, family, and religious spaces, forces many transgender people to act their entire lives. They are welcomed as long as they fit into a role that fits social expectations. When they step outside of that role, the system resists them in a variety of ways, from silence and indifference to outright discrimination. Understanding how religion and society interact with the transgender community helps to decipher why Thailand has a very open image. But the reality is not so easy. It is a two-tiered society, one where the surface is flexible, but the core still places gender within a narrow box. Number 3. Half-handed recognition of law. The visibility of transgender people in Thai society may lead many to believe that they are fully protected by the law, but the country's legal system has never fully recognized transgender identities. Gender assigned at birth remains the determining factor on identity documents, which directly affects access to health, financial, administrative services, and basic human rights. For years, human rights groups have called on Thailand to pass a law that would legally recognize gender. In 2007, a bill that would allow transgender people to change their gender on paper was introduced to the National Assembly, but was quickly shelved amid controversy from many quarters, including moral, social, and religious concerns. Since then, no comprehensive law has been passed to address the issue. Transgender people, even those who have undergone full surgery, are still forced to use their birth gender in all official transactions. This creates a host of practical difficulties. Many people are rejected for jobs because their documents do not match their appearance. Problems also arise when applying for visas, booking flights, registering for bank accounts, or registering for marriage. With electronic systems, inappropriate documents can easily lead to automatic rejections without a specific appeal channel. Transgender people are often required to provide additional evidence, undergo rigorous checks, or accept being marked as an exception in the system. In 2024, Thailand passed a marriage equality law that allows same-sex couples to legally marry. This was a major step forward, making Thailand the first country in Southeast Asia to do so. The law also allows transgender couples to marry and register their inheritance. However, problems arise when a transgender person's documents do not reflect their true gender. This complicates registration, child custody, and how assets are handled after death. A positive sign came in early 2025 when the Thai government announced a $4.3 million investment to support transgender healthcare. The budget was allocated for hormone therapy, medical consultations, and gender studies. While not enough to address all the issues, it was a rare policy commitment from the government specifically to the transgender community. Another issue of concern to the transgender community is military service. All male citizens in Thailand are required to enter a draft lottery. Transgender people can be exempted from military service by providing a certificate certifying them as a Type 2 female, the official medical term used to describe someone with a distinctly feminine appearance. However, this is not only linguistically offensive, but also requires transgender people to undergo an inappropriate medical examination. Many have spoken out about being treated disrespectfully during this process, turning the experience of service into a lasting psychological wound. In educational settings, ambiguous gender norms have led to transgender students being forced to wear inappropriate uniforms and use restrooms that do not correspond with their gender identity. Some schools, such as Rajabhat College of Education in the 1990s, banned Kathoey students from enrolling in full-time education. While these decisions were later reversed due to public outcry, they have demonstrated inconsistencies in policy and law enforcement regarding transgender people. The nature of the current legal system is that it does not deny the existence of transgender people, but it also does not formally recognize them. That gap leaves millions of people in a legal limbo without full protection, but still bound by rules that were not designed for them. It is a partial recognition that places them in a legal gray area. When the right to be recognized as your gender is not there, all other civil rights are diminished. Going to work. Being respected in public office voting, or simply living your life naturally becomes a privilege, not a right. Thailand may be leading the way in terms of transgender visibility, but legally, there is still a long way to go. Number 4. Exploitation prejudice and the dark side. Off the stage, the daily lives of transgender people in Thailand are much more complicated than the vibrant facades that tourists often see. Despite their frequent appearances in the entertainment and beauty industries, most transgender people still face significant barriers when it comes to finding stable employment outside of these fields. Many are well educated, but are rejected by human resources departments because their profiles and appearances do not match the gender standards on paper. Inconsistencies between their identity and their administrative records have become a common reason for indirect but legal rejection. The lack of opportunities in the formal labor market has forced many transgender people to choose informal paths to survive. A large number are drawn into the sex industry, which offers quick income but also poses many physical and mental risks. Areas such as Pattaya Nana Plaza or Patpong are notorious for transgender sex acts, but most have no clear legal mechanisms to protect workers in these environments. The line between choice and compulsion is blurred, leading to situations where individuals are forced to compromise their safety and dignity in order to survive. Prejudice also begins in the educational environment itself. Although there has been a certain openness in major universities, there are still cases where transgender students are forced to wear uniforms that do not match their gender identity. Vague gender norms in the school environment increase the risk of being isolated, monitored, or even disciplined for violating the rules. This directly affects the process of forming self-esteem and motivation to learn, especially for those who begin to perceive themselves from high school age. On the other hand, the media, while contributing to the elevation of transgender people in some areas, often unintentionally perpetuates hurtful stereotypes. They are often portrayed as comic relief weak or physically excessive. These portrayals, while not malicious, perpetuate a distorted image of transgender people in the popular consciousness. This affects how others treat them in real life, making respect conditional and easily lost when they step outside of the entertainment role. Part of the negative image also stems from widely reported individual incidents. Incidents such as collisions with foreign tourists, arguments in nightlife districts, or even minor infractions can easily become hot topics. The media's special attention to transgender people in negative situations causes a single act to be exaggerated, leading to widespread prejudice in the community. This leaves many transgender people in a state of guardedness and a feeling of having to prove that they are better than the stereotype. The family environment, which should be a place of support, is not always supportive. Many transgender people are rejected by their own relatives, seen as a source of shame for their families, or are forced to adopt a male role to continue the family line. When they are pushed out of their homes without a supportive social system, they are at risk of becoming the most vulnerable group without shelter, without mental health support, without access to identity-appropriate health services. Depression and suicide among Thailand's transgender community remain alarmingly high. Social pressure, isolation, lack of legal recognition, and lack of medical support are all contributing factors to chronic mental health crises. These issues are not easily seen from the outside and are not often mentioned in the mainstream media. While the spotlight is on the stage, the hidden stories are thousands of silent stories that remain untold. To truly appreciate the reality, we can't just look at celebrities or shows. Trans people need to be stripped of their cultural stereotypes to truly listen to what they need, where they are hurting, and how they are trying to survive in a system that doesn't recognize them. Number 5. Conditional shine. In Thailand, gender identity is defined and understood as a cross-cultural and modern concept. The term Kathoey is often used to refer to transgender women or people who were assigned male at birth but present a distinctly feminine appearance. However, the term is heavily traditional and is not synonymous with transgender woman in the international context. Some transgender people in Thailand no longer identify as Kathoey, believing that the term is associated with long-standing prejudice or has negative connotations. Instead, they use the term Phuying, meaning woman, to affirm their true gender identity. In the West, transgender woman is understood as a person born with a male biological sex, but a female gender identity, often undergoing hormone therapy or surgery. This is a personal and medical concept, separated from the cultural context. Meanwhile, Kathoey does not necessarily include the element of biomedical transition, but rather refers to gender expression and social position in Thai culture. This creates a difference in identification standards. In addition to the above two concepts, the term non-binary, referring to people who do not identify as purely male or female, is gradually appearing more in Thailand, especially among urban youth. However, popular understanding of non-binary identities is still quite limited. In many cases, non-binary is easily assimilated or confused with Kathoey due to the lack of clear distinction between gender expression and gender identity in everyday language. Cultural context has a big impact on who a person identifies as. Many Kathoey grow up without a vocabulary to accurately describe themselves. They learn to survive by fitting into established social stereotypes. As international media spread and social media became a tool for self-identification, some transgender people began to break away from traditional labels and adopt labels that better fit their sense of self. However, this shift has not been uniform. In conservative or working-class areas, Kathoey remains the dominant and sometimes the only term to describe the entire gender-variant community. This risks homogenizing and obscuring the true diversity within the community. Understanding the difference between terms is more than just a matter of vocabulary. It affects policy citizenship and the way a society structures recognition of identity. Separating traditional and modern concepts is essential if the transgender community is to be seen as a whole, not just in terms of their appearance, but also in terms of the accuracy of their pronouns and their right to choose how they want to be called. Number 6. Global comparison. Transgender communities exist in many countries, but the way they are treated by society and the state varies greatly. When you compare Thailand to countries with large transgender communities such as Brazil, India, and the Philippines, the contrast in policy safety and opportunities is stark. In Brazil, the transgender community is large in number, but the living environment is full of risks. According to human rights organizations, Brazil has had the highest rate of violence and murder of transgender people in the world for many consecutive years. Although the country has allowed legal gender change since 2008, the right to live safely is not guaranteed. Transgender people in Brazil face violence from both society and law enforcement, while the protection network for them remains weak. India has a unique history with the HIJRA community, which was recognized as a third gender in 2014. This decision opened a new legal chapter, allowing HIJRAs to participate in the social welfare system run for office and have their gender recognized on paper. However, the reality of many HIJRAs' lives is still limited by religious prejudice, lack of employment opportunities, and isolation in their communities. Despite their legal recognition, they still face a daily struggle for equal treatment in their living environment. The Philippines, a country with a strong Catholic culture, has been quite open to transgender people in the media and civil society. They are widely represented in the entertainment, fashion, and community sectors. However, this presence has not been accompanied by legal protection. The Philippines does not recognize same-sex marriage, nor does it have a clear legal framework for legal gender change. Transgender people often have to rely on individual and community efforts to protect themselves, while the state system has not been proactive in accompanying them. In this picture, Thailand stands out as the cultural and economic hub of transgender people in Asia. They are everywhere, from big stages, catwalks, television, to beauty salons. The image of ladyboys is recognized as part of the national identity in the tourism industry. However, when it comes to legal comparisons, Thailand lags behind Brazil and India. The lack of legal gender recognition remains a major bottleneck, affecting many aspects of transgender people's lives. What is unique about Thailand is the level of cultural integration. Few places have the capacity to allow transgender people to play as large a role in the economy and arts as they do here. However, this does not mean they have equal status. Being pigeonholed into specific roles such as entertainment or service makes transgender Thais more susceptible to being reduced to symbols than citizens. From a global perspective, Thailand is not the most progressive country in terms of legal progress, but it is one of the most unique in terms of the widespread presence and integration of transgender people into cultural identity. The gap between social recognition and the legal framework remains large. This makes Thailand a unique case, a place where transgender people can be famous, can be loved, but still not properly recognized when facing the legal system. Number 7. Trends and future. Over the past 5 years, Thailand's transgender community has seen fundamental change. The change has not come from a single push, but rather the result of a series of cumulative efforts, from policy advocacy campaigns to social media voices to the emergence of a new generation willing to speak up for their rights. The Thai Transgender Alliance and other groups have developed large-scale public education campaigns that go beyond advocacy to research policy recommendations and legal support for transgender people. Materials on gender identity rights and transgender health are increasingly appearing in the informal education system, helping young people gain a clearer perspective when defining themselves. In 2019, a notable milestone occurred when Tanwaran Sukapisit, a transgender filmmaker, was elected to the Thai National Assembly, becoming the first openly transgender person to hold a legislative position. Although he was later stripped of his seat due to a technicality related to election laws, this event opened up new possibilities for the LGBTQ+ community to enter politics, where they can directly shape the rules of the game instead of being outside the system. In addition, the younger generation in Thailand is increasingly approaching the concept of gender in an open way. The influence of Western culture. The spread of social platforms and individual media campaigns help young people understand the difference between gender expression and gender identity. This creates a more comfortable social environment for those who do not fit into the traditional gender framework. However, policy barriers remain a major bottleneck. The current legal framework does not provide a mechanism for transgender people to legally change their gender. Child custody inheritance and access to gender-specific health care are still governed by the gender assigned at birth. Investing $4.3 billion in transgender health care by 2025 is a positive sign, but it is not enough to eliminate the inconsistency between law and social reality. One notable trend is the increase in psychological counseling services, specifically for transgender people, given that depression and suicide rates among this community remain higher than average. Providing long-term specialized psychological support is seen as an essential part of the transgender rights ecosystem in Thailand. Thailand's ability to transform depends largely on the political system's willingness to truly recognize gender diversity. Cultural and social factors have paved the way for the long-term and stable existence of the transgender community. What is lacking is a law that clearly states they do not just exist, they have the right to live fully with dignity and citizenship like anyone else. Number 8. Beyond the spotlight. Thailand is often seen as one of the most welcoming countries for transgender people. The sight of Ladyboy performers on stage, the friendliness of urban society, and the widespread presence of the community all give the impression of a progressive society. However, when you put all the factors culture, law, economy, and social system on the same plane, the picture becomes clearer. This is a country that is accepting of the surface, but not yet fully addressing the underbelly. The cultural presence of transgender people in Thailand is rare. They are not marginalized as they are in many other countries, but are often integrated into influential economic sectors such as tourism, entertainment, and media. That this community can contribute to shaping the national image shows a level of social flexibility that many places do not yet have. However, at the legal level, fundamental things like the right to change gender on paper, the right to be treated according to one's identity in all administrative interactions are still not codified. This has consequences at many levels, from work, education, healthcare, to family formation. No matter how famous a transgender person is, they are still forced to live according to their biological sex when participating in any administrative procedure, an indirect but persistent denial. On a deeper level, the transgender community in Thailand still faces social prejudice, is confined to acceptable roles, and is easily targeted for discrimination if it deviates from established cultural norms. Being seen in certain areas does not mean being fully present. Being allowed to perform does not mean being allowed to live freely. However, recent years have seen positive movement, community campaigns have grown stronger. Social media has opened up new spaces for transgender people to define themselves, and the political system has begun to see openly gendered figures. Social consensus, while not yet complete, has laid the foundation for demanding more specific and far-reaching policy changes. What Thailand is facing is no longer a question of transgender presence. They are already here, clearly visible. The question is whether the country is willing to restructure its system to reflect social reality. When the law is aligned with culture, when gender identity is recognized from the ground up, Thailand will truly be a pioneer in building a diverse and equitable society. If you found the perspectives in this video helpful in understanding an underrepresented reality, please leave a comment below. Have you been to Thailand? What do you think about how society views gender diversity? We want to hear from you. Don't forget to like and share if you find the content worth spreading, and subscribe to the NVL Travel Documentary channel so you don't miss the next journeys, where we tell the world with a real clear and not superficial perspective. Because sometimes to understand a land, you don't have to look at the bright spots, but listen carefully to the places that have been overlooked.